What's going on, everyone? Juicebags here, and welcome back to some Dungeon Defenders 2. Today I kind of wanted to take a look at a 1 amp warrior build, meaning a build that only requires 1 Chaos 8 amp and will still allow you to push to a pretty decent level into the hundreds in Onslaught. Now, when we take a look at any of these builds, first things first, what is our goal for DU? Well, as we all know, every single map in the game, if you divide it out, if you go to the worst possible defense unit map there and divide it out per lane, you're always going to have at least 180 DU to spend in each lane. So knowing that, we want to put together a build that uses just 180 DU. Now, when we think about that build and what we want in the lane, there's really nothing more impactful than crowd control in Dungeon Defenders 2. Meaning, if you can slow them, slow them. If you can stun them, stun them. So by all means, go ham on the CC. Now, one of the things that doesn't get mentioned very often and is just ridiculously powerful is the stacking of slows. Meaning different slows will work together with each other to slow mobs down to an absolute just creeping pace. One of the best ways to start off any single slow build that you want to use is going to be with the Frostbite Tower. The Frostbite Tower has the benefit of slowing mobs down to 58.5% at tier 1. However, it also has the lovely Frosty Power Shard. Frosty Power, of course, is going to go ahead and pass Gilded 33% of its defense power stat along to the defenses within the Frost area. So it's getting two large benefits. It's getting a big slow, and it's getting a power boost. Now, what could we pair with the Frostbite Tower for even more power and another slow? Well, that's an easy choice there. Without a doubt, the Boost Aura. The Boost Aura, one of its most powerful shards, is without a doubt Boosted Grasp. As you see here, when gilded, enemies move at 48% speed. Now, we've got the enemies just chopped down to an absolute crawl. However, why not take this one step further? So, we also know we've got another extremely powerful slow in the game, and that is the Proton Beam. So, if we go ahead and throw down a Proton Beam, we've now got 3 sources of slow that will interact with each other and bring mobs down to that snail's pace. Now, if you see, the Proton Beam here is going to slow enemies to 35%. We've got massive slowing going on between these. Now, in addition to that, the Proton Beam has that absolutely wonderful shard, Frosty Beams. When gilded, it gives a chance for the Proton Beam to freeze enemies it touches for 2.2 seconds. Now, freeze is a stun inside the game, so now we've got 3 superior slows with a stun. However, we are going to take that even one step further. The Proton Beam, as you see here, I've got the Poison Servo on it. Now, obviously, it doesn't need to be 10 out of 10, and you certainly don't need that Tenacity on here. This Tenacity is wasted. However, I'm not going to throw away a 10 out of 10 Tenacity, so I would repurpose this relic to something else. So this is not where you want to spend your amp. Since we've got Poison, what other absolutely amazing crowd control effect do we have? We've got Petrify. So by mixing Poison and Earth damage, we are going to petrify enemies for yet an additional CC element or stun on top of everything else we're using. So if we go ahead and throw down that Reflect Beam, on the Reflect Beam is our 1 amp. So this relic is going to have to be Chaos 8. 0 of 5 Chaos 8 just with 1 amp into it is enough to get the job done. And this particular defense has the Shattering Torpedo. Shattering Torpedo, as you see, it is dealing crushing earth damage. So now we've got Poison. Here is our Earth. And that is going to create that Petrify. So if we then go ahead and put down a Reflect Beam, we're getting big damage out of an AoE stun that's protecting everything else in the mix. However, as you see, we're only at 160 DU spent. So let's go ahead and kick it up one more notch, and we're going to buff every single thing there with a 20 DU defense in the Lightning Strike aura through the Destructive Pylon shard. Destructive Pylon is a mastery shard, of course. Many don't have it. It's well worth getting if you're willing to go ahead and tough it out and complete those mastery modes. So we now have 180 DU worked into kind of a throwdown build that you can use on almost any lane in Onslaught. So what is the big weakness of this lane? Well, it is without a doubt Frost mobs. Frost Orcs, these Reflect Beams have got a very short range. The Frost Orcs are going to get all kinds of uppity on them. Now, there's one thing about Frost enemies, though. They can't be slowed. So with that in mind, there is no reason to put down a Frostbite Tower. Now, in addition to that, what happens when Frost enemies get hit by fire damage? It is indeed increased damage. With that additional 30 DU, we're going to go ahead and throw down a Flame Aura in the mix instead, and then we now have a pretty solid build for any Frost lanes. Now, of course, if I was building the map, I would look at it, and if there is more than that 180 DU left in the lane, I would throw even more fire damage into this lane just to guarantee the Frost mobs aren't going to give me a problem. Let's go ahead and hop on into some Onslaught and try this build out. So here we are in floor 318 in the Dragonfall sewers, and let's try these builds out. Taking a look at the lanes, we've got Omega Squad Delta with Controlled Burn and Lethargic. Then we've got EMP Kamidargans up here. However, they got Proximity and Armored, which is going to make that lane just a lot easier. Over there, we got Zerkers and Healers with Pain Aura and Brittle. Down below, we got our lovely Frosty lane, so Psy-Frost Whompers is right down there. Lots of Frost Orcs in that lane. And then, what do we have there for flyers? We've got some long shot EMP Stabby Dargans. And then we've also got Omega Squad Alpha, looks like with Vampiric and Enraged. So let's go ahead and start the build off right over here, just as we laid it out in the tavern. So first things first, we're going to want our Frostbite Tower. Let's go ahead and throw that directly in the back. Now we do want to check the range on our Frostbite Towers and make sure our range on our slows is overlapping a bit. So let's just go ahead and check that range and then get our boost aura right down in the range of that Frosty. That way, the second they hit that line, they have got the double freeze going on, and it is good game. Now, of course, we are going to need our Proton Beam, so let's go ahead and throw that Poison Proton Beam up, and we will use, the V there. And then let's go ahead and go with the Reflect Beam. Now, if obviously I've got that amp on the Proton Beam, that amp, as I mentioned, is definitely not required, as you can just take a Reflect Beam and do something like that, and that Proton Beam is going to be completely protected versus Cyborgs, because this Reflect Beam has the tenacity on it and is blocking the Cyborg attacks. Now, there's our 160 DU. Of course, we now want to buff everything, so let's go ahead and throw that Lightning Strike aura just right there in the back, just to make sure it's going to cover everything. Now let's go over and do the exact same thing here on this Zerker Healer lane. So let's go with... let's actually put our Proton Beam down first. Let's go back just a little with it. Let's go with a Proton Beam like right there. That way we can get the Proton out of there and grab our Apprentice for our Frostbite Tower. We've got our Reflect Beam. Let's go ahead and put the Lightning Strike up front on this one. And then we'll put the boost directly behind it. I got kind of mixed emotions there. You know what? I'm going to leave it the same way. I want them getting slowed. I want them getting slowed right out of the gates there. So let's go ahead and do it just like we had it on the other lane, where we've got the Lightning Strike aura just kind of buffing everything. Now we've spent 360 DU now, 180 times 2. And then we know, here we go, our Psy-Frost Whomper lane. So, first things first, remember that the cyborgs can't be slowed, or pardon me, the frost mobs can't be slowed. However, they can be stunned. So we are going to put that proton beam down, and we're going to rely on that for our freeze. So let's go ahead and go just something like that. Still going to use the boost aura. Now, if it was all frost lanes, I would take that boosted grasp out of there and go with some more power and put like boosted power on it. We'll get our lightning strike behind it. And then we want to go with our reflect beam. Now, once again, this is a frost lane, so we want to add that fire damage and not add in the slow. So let's go ahead and get our flame aura directly in front, and then we'll move on to the next lane. Now, we've got EMP Stabby Dargons here, Long Shot and Headstrong. I do think that one of the easiest ways to deal with this is going to be just to throw a Skyguard out here, far enough away from the core where it's not going to take damage when it does get hit. And then let's get a little bit of upfront damage. We do have Long Shot on that flyer lane, but I'm going to throw a Flame Aura up there anyway, just to kind of soften those flyers up a bit. And now we want to take a look at our main lane. Now, first things first, this particular lane, we all know it. If it's got throwers, if it's got hex throwers, you've got to protect that sub-objective. We do have hex throwers here, so before we move any further, we need to provide some kind of protection against the hex throwers for this sub-objective. Now let's go ahead and move to the lane itself. So let's go ahead and start off with the Frostbite. We're just going to drop it right there. I'm going to grab my Proton EV2. However, first things first, we're going to line up our boost aura with that Frosty lane range. So let's go right on up there. Then we'll throw in our Proton Beam for even more slow in action. Go ahead and get that reflect beam in place. Can I put it? It's going to be a little wonky. It's going to be a little wonky here. Let me just go ahead and... do we want to overlap it? I do have tenacity on that proton, but I don't want to use that tenacity, as I just want to show that you just don't need it. So I'm going to protect that proton anyway. A little bit wonky placement there, but not quite terrible. And then let's get the lightning strike in for that additional damage. Now we have 70 DU left. What can we do with 70 DU? Well, we know we've got a frost lane. So as I mentioned, one of the things I would consider doing right away is getting even more fire damage on this lane. So I personally have my fissures set up for anti-frost, using anti-frost, anti-orc, and I'm going to go ahead and throw a fissure down, say, let's go like right over here. And yet another right over here. Now this is going to give me just a ton of fire damage added to the lane that is going to give me the most problems, and that is without a doubt that Cyfrost Whomper lane. So we've got 100 left to spend. Let's go ahead and upgrade both of these particular flyer defenses. And then we don't have any directly... we have nothing directly for the flyers here. However, they do fly in kind of low. I am going to fight in this lane and hopefully put a little damage on the flyers, but I do think that just this setup right here is probably going to kill them. But let's go ahead and see how it goes here. And before those flyers come in, we can get a close-up at this setup in action. Just super slow motion. We see the cyborgs to no avail smashing away at that reflect beam. And by looking at the mini-map, you see we're getting the same results on all the lanes. So just doing a great job here. Now we do have some flyers rolling in. As I mentioned, I do think that that reflect beam would be a great last resort. My east valve got attacked by something. I wonder how that happened. It's not dead, but it's something I'm going to want to pay attention to. Let's go ahead and help these flyers out as well here. Oh, my Frostbite got dive bombed is what it was. The Frostbite tower is missing. That is a super easy fix. Let's go ahead and get these guys finished off here. A little weak on the flyer defense for sure. We could have put, maybe saved one of those fissures and put a little something extra here for the flyers. Let's go ahead and get our Frostbite Tower back up, as it did get just walloped. And it's just so we can avoid any issues with the core there. Let's put our Frostbite right here. So it's still going to cover the entire lane, no problem at all. It actually covers it better than it was covering it before, I believe. Close to the same. So let's go ahead and make sure these flyers are not going to be an issue. So I'm going to upgrade both of those. As we see, our Frost lane down here did fantastic. I am going to upgrade all of these fire defenses, though, just to make sure we don't have anybody getting uppity down on that lane. And then let's see how we did over here. Looks pretty solid. Go ahead and throw a couple of ups into this Reflect Beam. That way we can kind of ignore this lane. And we've got the boss coming, a Geode from this Omega Squad Delta lane. So that works out just perfect for where we want to fight anyway. Let's see, we've got enough for one more upgrade. Let's go ahead and just upgrade the Proton Beam. And let's see how wave number 2 goes. Just quite the roadblock on the mobs as they come in. And, you know, with the Cyborgs, kind of a Cyborg trap, so to speak, with having the Reflect Beam up front like that. It definitely confirms that Cyborgs, without a doubt, have the lowest IQ in the Legion, as they are more than content to just sit there and smash away at that Reflect Beam with no result until they are just doomed. So, without a doubt, the Cyborg is not going to win the Spelling Bee. There is no doubt in my mind. We're actually wrecking it up pretty good here. Now let's go ahead and get this wave upgraded again. Let's definitely hit this one more time as well. And now I do want to focus on those flyers a little bit more. So I'm going to go one more upgrade on that Sky Guard. And one more upgrade on that Flame Aura. And then everything else I'm going to dump right into this Reflect Beam and get it just a bit juicier, as it's not quite where it needs to be. So let's try this again without being the target dummy for the Kobolds. Let's see how this goes. Nothing is actually standing a chance on the lane here. I could just let it run and not even look at this lane. Now here comes our flyers. I do want to get that damage going on those guys, as that has been the biggest problem we faced so far this map. I do feel like I overkilled the Frost lane a little bit, and I could have used that DU up here, just like a Poison Dart Tower or a Snake or anything up here to give me a little bit of help clearing these flyers out. Here comes the Assassin. It's a headstrong Assassin, but of course. But those Reflect Beams still were managed to power through it. Let's just get healed back up here. And we've got another round of flyers making the move. Those flyers are fine. Let's take a quick peek at this Frost lane and see how it's doing. Yeah, see, just nothing is making it out of there. No problem at all. In fact, you see no mana dropped past this ramp at all. Everything is down in the spawn area. Just telling me that this is more than sufficient fire damage here, and it's without a doubt wrecking it up. Just one more round of ups, and we will never look at that lane again. And then now it's just time to go into pure beast mode by getting these Reflect Beams all the way up to tier 5. I'm not going to be able to get them all. It's going to take next wave to close the deal. But can I get another up over here? Yeah, we can throw an up on the Proton. Why not? Wave 4 going here. It's habit just to shoot down the lane. But this lane is large and in charge, no doubt about it. That is truly a 1 amp warrior build right there in that lane, as it's just, wow, just getting it done. Getting double boosted, of course. We're triple boosted, really, when you think about it, because we do have Destructive Pylon as well. Plus, we've got Frostbites. Plus, we've got the Boost Aura. That is just a winning combination, there's no doubt there. These flyers, at least the flyers are taking their sweet old time with that frostbite tower. Trying to get one or two more dead before I get assassined again. Two of them, wow. This assassin's getting all sorts of uppity. And then we got a Dragonlord as well coming in that far lane over in the northwest. So I do want to make sure these assassins are dead first. Nope, looks like I'm going to go before they do. Oh, wow. The Petrify's got him, I'm pretty sure. But that Dragonlord is dead. So without ever removing the bubble, I think the Petrify did the job there. Oh, very, very nice. So moving on in to the final wave now, we can get the last, let's grab all this mana and get the last of these reflect beams completely upped for just the full-on beast mode. Oh yeah, it's on now, there's no doubt. 300 left, so I do have enough to finish up this lane and get that reflect full-on 100% badassery. And here we go with the final wave. This build is actually so good for where it's at, you know, at floor 318. As you've noticed, I haven't even really been checking boss lanes. Now, that's not necessarily a good thing. It never pays to be lazy. However, this is a super, super solid build and kind of allows you to be a little bit lazy, to be honest. Very, very good stuff. Now, as of the recording of this video, we don't know whether or not Chromatic is going to do a Friday live stream this week, as I am recording this very, very early in the morning, Friday morning, Thursday night, super, super late. So we don't know if Chromatic is going to be streaming yet. However, I will be streaming some DD2 action over on Twitch. We're probably going to be doing a little bit more Onslaught climbing with Omni, and that's going to start depending on Chromatic stream. If Chromatic doesn't stream, I'm going to be live at noon Pacific time. That's 3 p.m. Eastern time over on my Twitch channel. Now, if Chromatic does stream, of course, I'm going to host their stream until it's over, and I won't be live until they end at 1 p.m. Now, I've got myself a little Siege Roller 11 rolling right on out over here. Might as well go down here and put the smackdown on him, as this guy has seen enough. Now, in addition to just climbing Onslaught and having some fun live over on Twitch, there is also going to be some giveaways. So we've got some heroes to give away, we've got some flares to give away, including the Super Hotness, the Juicy Head Flare. So one of these Juicy Head Flares is going to be going out over on Twitch. So once again, that's going to be starting at either noon or 1 p.m. Pacific time, depending on Chromatic stream. Now remember, there is that other secret giveaway that ends tonight at midnight. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, you might want to check through some of my latest videos. This is not one that's promoted. It's one you're going to have to find out the secret yourself. So thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to click that like button, please subscribe to the channel, and I will be back soon with more Dungeon Defenders 2. You can count on it. Thanks again. I'll see you next time.